Chapter 1. The Lonely Survivor. The planet Eloria, once a jewel of the Galactic Coalition, lay in ruins. Its skies, once vibrant with the colors of two suns, were now perpetually shrouded in dark clouds, a consequence of the war that had ravaged the planet. The once bustling cities were now ghostly ruins, with buildings reduced to skeletal remains. Among these desolate ruins wandered a lone survivor, Lyra, an Illyran girl. Illyrans, known for their delicate features, emerald skin, and silver hair, were a peaceful race with unique telepathic abilities. Lyra was one of the few who had survived the Solarian onslaught. Her family had been among the first to fall when the Solarians attacked, intent on claiming Eloria's rich resources. Lyra had hidden in the basement of their home, using her telepathic abilities to shield her presence from the enemy. She had survived by scavenging, finding food in the abandoned ruins, but it had been weeks since she last found anything substantial. Her once vibrant skin had turned a sickly green, and her body was frail from malnutrition. One day, while searching through the debris of an old communication center, Lyra stumbled upon a barely functioning device. Desperate, she used the last of her strength to send a distress signal, hoping that anyone would hear her. The signal was weak, barely reaching beyond Eloria's atmosphere, but it was her last hope. As days turned into weeks, Lyra's condition worsened. She could no longer muster the strength to forage, and her telepathic senses were dulled by hunger and fatigue. Just as she was on the brink of giving up, she saw a light in the sky. A spaceship was descending through the thick clouds. For a moment, she feared it was another Solarian patrol, but as the ship landed and the hatch opened, she saw humans emerging. Commander Alex Mercer, a seasoned officer of the Galactic Coalition, led the rescue team. He had received Lyra's faint distress call while on patrol. Known for his empathy and dedication, Alex had immediately changed course to investigate. The sight of Lyra, barely alive, lying amidst the rubble, shook him. Her once bright eyes were now dull with exhaustion and fear. Without a second thought, he scooped her up and rushed her aboard the Starfire, his ship, and set a course for the nearest Coalition medical facility. Chapter 2. Healing and Connection. Aboard the Starfire, Lyra was placed in the care of Dr. Elena Costa, the ship's medic. Dr. Costa, a compassionate and skilled doctor, was horrified by Lyra's condition. She worked tirelessly to stabilize her, administering intravenous fluids and nutrients to combat the severe malnutrition. Slowly, Lyra began to recover, her body responding to the care and nourishment. As she regained her strength, Lyra began to interact more with the crew. Her telepathic abilities allowed her to communicate even when she was too weak to speak. She shared her story, the trauma of losing her family, and the loneliness of being the last of her kind on Eloria. The crew listened, offering her kindness and support, something she had not experienced in a long time. Alex spent much of his time with Lyra, fascinated by her resilience and spirit. Despite everything she had endured, there was a quiet strength in her. He shared stories of Earth and the diverse cultures within the Galactic Coalition, trying to lift her spirits. Lyra, in turn, was intrigued by the humans' capacity for empathy and their determination to help others. She had always thought of humans as distant and unapproachable, but Alex and his crew shattered those preconceptions. The journey to the medical base on Trion 4 was long, but it gave Lyra time to heal. She began to regain some of her former vitality and her telepathic abilities. Once a burden filled with the echoes of suffering, became a source of connection. She used them to bond with the crew, learning about their lives and their reasons for joining the Coalition. The Starfire had become more than just a rescue ship. It was a place where she felt safe and accepted. Upon arrival at the medical base, Lyra was greeted with a level of care and concern that overwhelmed her. The base's staff, many of whom had never seen an Illyran before, were both curious and compassionate. They ensured she received the best medical care and provided counseling to help her cope with the trauma she had experienced. Lyra began to open up, sharing more about her life on Eloria before the war. The Illyrans had been a peaceful, artistic people, valuing harmony and creativity. The war had shattered that tranquility, leaving her with painful memories. As she recovered, Lyra became more involved with the community at the base. She participated in group therapy sessions, where survivors of various conflicts shared their stories. It was here that she learned about the broader scope of the war and the devastation it had wrought on many worlds. Her empathy grew as she connected with others who had suffered, finding solace in shared experiences. Chapter 3. Rising Tensions. Just as Lyra began to find a semblance of normalcy, news of a new threat reached the medical base. The Solarian Empire, still smarting from their defeat, had learned of Lyra's survival. They viewed her as a symbol of their failure and a potential rallying point for the Illyran diaspora. The Solarians, driven by their belief in their own superiority and a desire to crush any remnants of resistance, planned a strike to capture Lyra and use her as a propaganda tool. Commander Alex, always vigilant, was quick to respond to the threat. He reinforced the base's defenses and increased patrols. The base's personnel were briefed on the potential danger, and contingency plans were put in place. Lyra, informed of the situation, felt a mix of fear and anger. She did not want to be used as a pawn in the Solarians' games, but she also feared for the lives of the people who had taken her in. Despite the looming threat, Lyra refused to be hidden away. She had found strength in her new friends and wanted to stand with them. Using her telepathic abilities, she assisted in coordinating the base's defenses. Her powers, once used only for personal communication, were now an asset in detecting potential threats. She worked closely with the security team, her insights invaluable in planning their strategy. The Solarian attack came sooner than expected. They struck with a brutal efficiency, targeting the base's communications and power systems. The initial assault was devastating, but the defenders, prepared and resolute, fought back. Alex led the defense, his tactical acumen crucial in holding the line. Lyra, from a secure location, provided telepathic guidance, helping to anticipate the enemy's moves. In the heat of battle, Lyra's abilities took on a new dimension. She reached out to the Solarian soldiers, trying to connect with them telepathically. She shared her memories of Eloria, the destruction of her home, and the pain of losing her family. Her intent was not to manipulate, but to show them the human cost of their actions. Some soldiers, moved by her memories, hesitated. A few even laid down their arms, unable to continue fighting against someone who had suffered so much. The battle raged on for hours, but the defenders, bolstered by Lyra's bravery and Alex's leadership, held firm. The Solarians, faced with unexpected resistance and growing dissent within their ranks, eventually retreated. It was a hard-won victory, and the base had suffered losses, but they had held the line. Chapter 4. Paths Forward. In the aftermath of the battle, Lyra found herself at the center of a growing movement. Her actions during the fight had inspired many, both within the coalition and among the Solarian defectors. She became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was a path to peace and understanding. The Galactic Coalition recognized her potential as a diplomat and mediator, offering her a formal role as a liaison between species. Lyra accepted the role, seeing it as an opportunity to honor her family's legacy of peace and harmony. She began to travel, meeting with various species and factions, using her telepathic abilities to foster understanding and cooperation. Her journey was not easy. There were those who viewed her with suspicion or disdain, but her sincerity and compassion won many over. Her relationship with Alex deepened. The bond they had formed during her rescue had grown into a deep friendship, and there were hints of something more. However, both were aware of the challenges they faced, not only from external threats, but also from the complexities of their own lives. Alex, ever the dedicated officer, supported Lyra in her new role, even as he continued his duties with the Coalition. As Lyra's reputation grew, she became involved in the peace negotiations between the Galactic Coalition and the Solarian Empire. The talks were fraught with tension as old wounds and grievances surfaced. Lyra's role was crucial. Her telepathic abilities allowed her to sense the emotions and intentions of the negotiators, helping to diffuse potentially explosive situations. She shared her own story, not as a plea for sympathy, but as a testament to the potential for change and reconciliation. The negotiations were long and arduous, but eventually, a tentative peace agreement was reached. The Solarians agreed to a ceasefire, and steps were taken to address the root causes of the conflict. It was not a perfect solution, but it was a start. Lyra felt a deep sense of accomplishment, knowing that her efforts had helped bring about this moment. As the galaxy began to heal from the scars of war, Lyra looked towards the future. She continued her work as a diplomat, advocating for the rights of refugees and survivors of conflict. She also sought out the remnants of her own people, hoping to help them rebuild. The Illyran diaspora, scattered across the stars, found a new sense of purpose under her guidance. Lyra's journey had come full circle. From a scared, starving girl on a dying planet, she had become a beacon of hope and a force for change. Her friendship with Alex remained a cornerstone of her life, a source of strength and comfort. They often talked about the future, about what they hoped to achieve, and about the possibility of finding a place they could call home. In time, Lyra's work began to bear fruit. The galaxy, though still fractured in many ways, was slowly moving towards a more unified and peaceful existence. Her story became a part of the collective memory, a reminder of the resilience of the spirit and the power of empathy and understanding. As she stood on the bridge of the Starfire, looking out into the vastness of space, Lyra felt a deep sense of peace. She had found her place in the galaxy, not just as a survivor, but as a leader and a voice for those who had none. Her journey was far from over, but she faced the future with confidence and hope, knowing that she had the strength to overcome any challenge that came her way. And so, the tale of the alien girl who was starved and left for dead, only to be saved by a compassionate human, became a legend. It was a story of survival, friendship, and the enduring power of hope. Lyra's legacy would live on, a testament to the possibility of a better, more compassionate galaxy. Chapter 5. Unlikely Allies. With the tentative peace in place, Lyra's role shifted from a symbol of hope to an active participant in the reconstruction efforts across the galaxy. The Illyran diaspora, once scattered and broken, began to regroup under her leadership. Lyra worked tirelessly, traveling to different planets where Illyrans had sought refuge, providing them with the support they needed to rebuild their lives. Her telepathic abilities were invaluable in understanding their pain and guiding them towards healing. However, Lyra's journey was far from straightforward. The galaxy was still rife with tensions, not only between the Coalition and the Solarian Empire, but also among various independent systems and factions. Many viewed the peace treaty with suspicion, fearing it was a temporary truce rather than a lasting solution. In this delicate environment, Lyra sought to build bridges, even with those who had been former enemies. One of her most challenging tasks was to engage with the Solarian defectors, soldiers who had laid down their arms during the battle on Trion 4. These individuals, now shunned by their former comrades and distrusted by others, found themselves in a precarious position. Lyra saw in them a chance for genuine reconciliation. She initiated a program to integrate these defectors into civilian life, offering them education and employment opportunities within the Coalition. This initiative was met with resistance from many quarters, including within the Coalition itself. Some argued that the Solarians were untrustworthy and could pose a security risk. However, Lyra stood firm, believing that offering a path to redemption was crucial for lasting peace. She worked closely with Alex and other Coalition leaders to ensure the success of this program, personally mentoring several defectors. One of these defectors, Jareth, a former Solarian officer, became a key ally in Lyra's efforts. He had been deeply affected by the war and disillusioned with the Empire's propaganda. Jareth shared valuable insights into the Solarian military and culture, helping the Coalition better understand their former enemies. His knowledge also proved critical in diffusing a potential crisis when a group of radical Solarians attempted to sabotage peace efforts. Jareth's journey mirrored Lyra's own in many ways. Both had been shaped by loss and were now working towards a common goal of healing, Their unlikely friendship became a symbol of what could be achieved when old prejudices were set aside. Together, they traveled to various planets, speaking to communities about the importance of unity and understanding. Their message was simple but powerful. The past could not be changed, but the future was theirs to shape. Chapter 6. The Shadows of War. As Lyra and her allies worked towards rebuilding the galaxy, shadows of the past continued to loom. The Solarian Empire, though officially at peace, was far from stable. Factions within the Empire, unhappy with the ceasefire, plotted in the shadows. These hardliners, refusing to accept their defeat, sought to undermine the peace and reignite the war. Lyra, through her connections and telepathic abilities, became aware of these undercurrents. Her efforts to integrate Solarian defectors had also put her in contact with individuals who still had ties to the Empire. It became clear that not everyone within the Solarian leadership was committed to peace. Rumors of secret weapons programs and clandestine military buildups began to circulate. Concerned, Lyra brought these issues to the attention of the Galactic Coalition. However, without concrete evidence, it was difficult to act. The Coalition was wary of being drawn into another conflict and was hesitant to take preemptive measures. Lyra felt a growing sense of frustration, realizing that maintaining peace required constant vigilance and proactive diplomacy. In a bold move, Lyra decided to reach out directly to the Solarian leadership. She requested a meeting with Emperor Kale, the current ruler of the Solarian Empire. Kale was known as a pragmatic leader, having inherited the throne after the war. He had shown a willingness to negotiate, but was also under pressure from the hardliners within his government. The meeting was arranged in a neutral location, a space station on the outskirts of the Coalition's territory. It was a tense affair, with heavy security on both sides. Lyra, accompanied by Alex and Jareth, faced the Emperor and his advisors. The atmosphere was charged, with mistrust evident on both sides. However, Lyra's calm and empathetic approach helped to ease the tension. During the discussions, Lyra presented her concerns about the growing militarization within the Empire. She spoke openly about the need for transparency and cooperation to prevent a resurgence of hostilities. The Emperor, while non-committal, listened carefully. Jareth, who had once served under Kale, added his voice to the plea for peace, recounting his experiences and the cost of war. The meeting concluded with a tentative agreement for increased communication and a joint committee to investigate the rumors of militarization. It was a small victory, but an important step towards building trust. Lyra knew that the road ahead would be difficult, with many obstacles to overcome. However, she felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that she was playing a part in preventing another war. Chapter 7. The Dawn of Unity. With the peace efforts showing progress, Lyra turned her attention to fostering a deeper sense of unity among the various species and factions within the Coalition. She believed that true peace could only be achieved if all parties felt they had a stake in the galaxy's future. To this end, she organized the first Galactic Unity Conference, a summit designed to bring together representatives from every corner of the galaxy. The conference was to be held on the neutral world of Eridos, known for its lush landscapes and central location. It was an ambitious undertaking, with delegates from hundreds of species and factions expected to attend. The event aimed to address not only political and military issues, but also cultural and economic concerns. Lyra envisioned it as a forum where differences could be celebrated rather than feared. As the conference preparations progressed, Lyra faced numerous challenges. Security was a major concern, given the number of high-profile attendees and the ever-present threat of sabotage. Moreover, there were deep-seated animosities and suspicions among many of the factions, some of which had long histories of conflict. Lyra worked tirelessly, using her telepathic abilities to mediate disputes and foster a spirit of cooperation. The opening day of the conference was a momentous occasion. The main hall was filled with representatives from across the galaxy, their varied appearances and cultures a testament to the diversity of the Coalition. Lyra, dressed in traditional Illyrian attire, took the stage alongside Alex and other key leaders. Her opening speech emphasized the importance of understanding and unity, drawing on her own experiences of loss and healing. Throughout the conference, discussions ranged from trade agreements to environmental protection, from cultural exchanges to mutual defense strategies. Lyra was deeply involved in the proceedings, often acting as a mediator in tense negotiations. Her ability to sense emotions and intentions allowed her to navigate the complexities of interspecies diplomacy with finesse. One of the most significant achievements of the conference was the establishment of the Galactic Council, a new governing body designed to provide a platform for ongoing dialogue and decision-making. The council was structured to ensure representation from all species and factions, with a rotating leadership to prevent any one group from dominating. This structure was a direct response to the fears of smaller factions about being overshadowed by more powerful entities. As the conference drew to a close, there was a palpable sense of accomplishment and optimism. While there were still many challenges to overcome, the foundation for a more unified and peaceful galaxy had been laid. Lyra, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here, felt a profound sense of gratitude and hope. She had found not only a purpose, but also a family in the friends and allies she had made along the way. In the final moments of the conference, a surprise announcement was made. The Galactic Council had voted to award Lyra the title of Galactic Ambassador, recognizing her tireless efforts in promoting peace and unity. It was an emotional moment, with delegates rising to give her a standing ovation. Lyra, humbled and overwhelmed, accepted the honor with tears in her eyes, promising to continue her work with even greater determination. As she looked out over the diverse faces in the hall, Lyra knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but she was no longer alone. With allies like Alex, Jareth, and many others, she believed that a brighter future was possible. The galaxy, once divided by war and prejudice, was now on the path to unity and understanding. And so the story of the alien girl, who had been saved by a compassionate human, continued, growing into a legend of hope and resilience. Lyra's journey was a testament to the power of empathy and the belief that even the smallest actions could make a difference. As she stepped into her new role as Galactic Ambassador, Lyra felt ready to face whatever challenges the future held, confident in the knowledge that together they could build a better galaxy.